Hello and good morning or afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is Matthew DeGeeter, and I am the Senior Vice President of Strategic Enterprises at the American Society of Interior Designers. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, our ASID Member Benefit Spotlight, featuring the Professional Liability Insurance Program. So thank you for joining us today. You may have joined us last month as we kicked off this new series. If so, welcome back. If this is your first time joining us, this webinar series highlights an ASID member benefit tailored for current individual members, organizational partners, and potential new members considering joining. So in the next 20 minutes, we will cover the following. We're going to explore an ASID member benefit, hear from a member, learn how to sign up, and get your questions answered. So as attendees, your audio is muted and the attendee chat is disabled. So please use the Q&A button on your toolbars to submit questions at any time. We will respond to your questions during the Q&A portion of today's webinar. So I am your moderator for today, and I am joined by Jeremy Welsh, Executive Vice President, Commercial Lines at Hub International. So Hub is our program partner for the ASID Member Professional Liability Insurance Program, and Erica Glover, owner and principal designer at Erica G Design. Erica is an ASID member and utilizes this member benefit. So we can welcome them on screen. Hi, Erica. Hey, Jeremy. Thank you for being here. We're really grateful for your time and your perspective. All right, so we're going to jump right in. First, we're going to hear from Jeremy to provide info about the Professional Liability Insurance Program and why it matters to you and your business. So Jeremy, over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Matt. Happy to be here, and thanks for inviting me to do this. So as Matt mentioned, I've been working with ASID for many years, and we've designed a professional liability member benefit along with some other insurance programs that are available only to ASID members. So Matt, if you want to go to the next slide, we'll kind of touch on what exactly it is. So I get a lot of questions about, what is professional liability, errors and omissions coverage, right? Those two terms are interchangeable. So it's covering the same thing. Errors and omissions probably defines it best, right? It's your professional negligence as an interior designer and the potential loss that a third party could come back and sue you for. So as a designer, any client that you bring on is hiring you to do a specific job. And their anticipation is that that job is going to go perfectly and that everything is going to be done in a certain way that they're going to be happy with the end result. The reality is that things don't always go as planned. So often mistakes, overviews, it could be a delay in delivery of products or services, or just really a difficult client can create a potential claim scenario for you as a designer. So the types of claims that we're covering are, costs of damages and settlements, lawyers' fees, court expenses, could be a delay in the failure to deliver project on time, bodily injury, property damage based on the work that you've done, an error in selecting or ordering materials or design services and advice. We see most of our claims coming from that. But really, if you're looking at this, as a designer, you provide expertise and a specialized service to your clients. This is covering your malpractice, which ultimately is what we're covering, right? Mistakes happen and someone's hiring you to do a specific job. And if they feel that job wasn't done to the specifications that they've paid you for, then that gives them the ability to bring suit against you and try to go after you for either money, damages, etc. So this is really providing you with financial protection for your business, right? As a business owner, this is protecting your business and this is protecting your livelihood as a designer, but it's also covering you for peace of mind, which is allowing you to focus on your work as a designer and carry out your business without having to worry about the what ifs, right? What if this happens? What happens? Who do I call? Who's going to pay for this, right? So this is really just protecting your business, giving you the peace of mind, but also allowing you to focus on your business, right? And not have to worry about the things that can go wrong, which is what this is covering, essentially. So you can go to the next slide, Matt. So, as we kind of talk through what professional liability is, it's very confusing. So I've had the pleasure of working with ASID for many years, talked to countless ASID members. We've done a lot of policy comparisons. And what we find is that, a lot of designers think they're insured or think they have the right insurance. And what happens is, well, my friend sells insurance, right? So I got a policy through them. But your friend probably doesn't insure any other designers, right? You might be the only one they've ever insured. So they don't have the right insurance companies or the right coverages to actually insure what it is that you do. Or you're just going online and hoping that the policy you buy is actually going to cover you and it's priced well. So what we've done is taken all the homework out of that and created a policy that is very specific to interior design, that's very broad in coverage. So it's actually covering your work as an interior designer. And when you do have a claim or a situation with a client that is alleging something against you, that policy is there and we know it's going to respond. And that's the key feature, right? Is that you're buying a policy that is backed by ASID. It's got an exclusive discount only for ASID members. So no one else can buy this unless you're an ASID member at the discounted rate that we have. It also includes unlimited defense costs. And I'll just very quickly explain, if you have a $200,000 claim of legal fees that build up, it does not take away from the limit that you bought. So you essentially have unlimited defense costs, and then you have that limit that's still there for you to pay for any damages at the end of that claim. Where a comparison policy, if you have a $200,000 and $100,000 limit, you're going to be $100,000 out of pocket and have to pay damages. So we've really broadened the coverage so that you can tailor this around what you really need, but gives you a ton more, a lot more coverage than you would get in the open market. Think of it almost like you have an attorney on retainer, right? You essentially have the backing of a large national insurance company and attorneys that are going to fight on your behalf if and when you need it. Additionally, this year, something that we've added was architects and engineers coverage. So if you have an A&E on staff, or if you're an A&E yourself, you need different coverage than just a standard design policy, because a design policy is not going to extend all the structural and A&E type of coverages that you need. So we now have an option to offer a full, true A&E policy in addition to your ASID professional liability policy. So there's a lot of things that we can kind of tailor around your specific needs. So as you grow, or as you split off on your own, as we'll hear from Erica here in a minute, right? There's a lot of things that you really need to think about in what you're protecting yourself from. We also have a business owner's policy that can pair with both those policies, that provides property and liability, especially showrooms, borrowing fine arts or furniture. You have property that is in your care, custody, control. You need to ensure that. So we've kind of tailored a policy to make sure that we're picking that up. And briefly, I'll touch on just comparison policy, because I see this far too often. And it scares me, because what I see is designers telling me that they have insurance, and then we'll do a comparison for them. And then by the end of our comparison, they realize they don't really have the insurance that they think they do. So one of the biggest insurance companies out there that we do a lot of work with has, if you go to their website, it says interior design all over it. As soon as you get a policy, what you're buying is an interior decorator policy. So if you do anything with design, it's all excluded. All it's covering is furnishings and colors, basically. So it's cheap, but it's not covering you for 90% of the work that you're actually doing. So be aware of what you're buying, because it's really confusing in the insurance marketplace where everyone is just marketing to you. Again, we've taken the homework out of all of that. We've built out a policy that we know is specific to design, that's going to cover you when and if you need it. And it's discounted only for ASID. So it's, don't do it on your own if you don't have to. And that's the member benefit of being part of ASID, right? Is that we've already done that homework for you. And so it gets how to apply, right? So a few different ways to apply. Go to the ASID website is number one. You can schedule a meeting with our team to do a comparison, so that we can you send us what you have, we'll kind of go through, give you a comparison of, well, this is what you do have, this is what you don't have. if you want to insure these other things, this is how you apply to get coverage. And we could do a comparison for you. So you can see, number one, if your rates are good, because a lot of times what we see is people buying things off of a site and they're paying way more than they need to. Or number two, they don't have what they need and they end up buying something that's not actually covering them, which is the worst case scenario because you're just throwing money away and you're not actually protected. Once you go to the website, we just needed a few pieces of information, which is basic company information, revenue, location, type of work you're doing, right? Residential, commercial, do you use contracts? We hope that everyone on this call does. Real basic info, and then we'll have a quote back to you within 48 hours. And then we'll be able to talk through and kind of explain, here's what you're getting. I always get the question, how much does it cost? And the answer, unfortunately, is it depends. So it really depends on how much revenue, what state you're in really drives a lot of this because some states are just much more expensive to do business in. But the base premium that I've still seen is around $500 annually for the professional liability. Again, it's going to be based on what state you're in and being able to get something that low. But it's already discounted. It has max credits based on ASID. So you're getting the best possible pricing there is. And the business owner's policies start around 300. But again, that's going to be dependent on how much property, what state, where you're located. But, the takeaway I would say for this before we go into the panel is, if you're a business owner, if you're a designer for, $1,000 to $2,000 a year, you can focus on your business, focus on growing your business and what you do best and not have to worry about all of the things that can go wrong because you know that you're backed by an ASID exclusive policy that's there to protect you when and if you need it at a discounted rate. So it's just peace of mind, protecting yourself and your finances and focusing on what you do best, which is design.
Thanks for that, Jeremy. I think a couple of really key things that you just mentioned. One, the homework's been done for you because thinking about navigating all of this complicated language and also I think having that policy comparison. So set up that meeting, get that information so you can get that side by side and really understand what is covered right now, maybe under what you have and versus what you could have covered based on what you're doing. And I think the other key question is knowing what you've been doing. Like, do you like being able to know what your business is? And also your business may change and evolve. And so when's the last time you checked what is covered in your professional liability insurance plan? And does it actually cover what your business is now doing? So I'm going to hand this over next to Erica Glover. And so Erica, tell us about your experience. What motivated you to sign up? What benefits have you experienced? And I'm also going to stop the share so we can see each other.
Okay.
There we go.
Hi. Over the years, I've worked for multiple really talented designers and recently went out on my own. And so right away, I knew from past experience, like how important insurance is. And I wanted it mostly for peace of mind so that when issues do come up, because they do come up, I knew I'm covered. And then number two is credibility, both to clients and also to other trades. And so when I was looking for it, I Googled about the ASID program, but it's not until you need it that you actually think about it. And so I looked up ASID. I also my phone heard me, and so I was getting Instagram ads of different insurance companies, and so I got 3 different quotes, and ultimately went with the ASID insurance, so for me, the price was a little bit less than the other insurance companies. And then I know ASID and I feel like I trust ASID. So I was hoping that that was the best option. And then the coverage, Hanover, the policy actually did provide a lot more coverage And I don't necessarily know what the coverage meant, but there were a lot more line items, right? And when I went over it, it did provide more coverage. So I signed up with the ASID insurance. And kind of going back to why I felt like I needed it, at, you know, working on different projects, you're always coming up with, there's always an issue. And most of the time you can resolve those issues, but sometimes action needs to happen, and those can get costly. And so at a previous design firm I worked at, there was a plumbing issue, and we the plumbing was installed like just off from, like, it wasn't centered on the shower line. And so, there was tile, there's plumbing, there's the work. All in all, it's a costly mistake. And it wasn't necessarily like our mistake, or it was lost in communication. And so thankfully that designer had insurance, and we were able to file a claim, and everything was able to be worked out through that. And so having had that experience, I knew just the value you get in having a policy, and just really that peace of mind and comfort of, okay, this could have been a really costly mistake. And in the end, it's not going to be, I'm covered. And so I'm good. And then since I've been on my,
Point. I was just
yeah,
gonna
go
say,
ahead.
you make a great point, Erica, because what happens is, maybe the plumber was at fault, right? But ultimately they name everybody.
Yeah.
So everyone gets brought in on that suit. And if you don't have insurance, you're stuck trying to figure that response out on your own, right? You're hiring your own attorneys, you're stressed, it takes away from your business. It's not a fun process. Instead of just saying, this is why I have insurance, let me put the claim in, and they're going to run with it.
Yeah. And that out of pocket can get really pricey. So yeah, that was something good. Kind of an experience I've had on my own, like, thankfully I haven't needed to use it personally, but in one instance where I was at a proposal meeting with a client, and she'd had a pool company that had like taken their money and run. And I didn't know that when she asked me, but so I'm explaining, I take cost of goods before I purchase anything. And she's like, well, how do I know that you're not going to just take my money, cash it, and run to Hawaii? And I was like, well, it threw me off because I never thought of that. Nobody's ever like asked me. But I was like, number one, I'm, a business owner, a member of the community, I'm trustworthy. And number two, like, I was able to pull up on my app, like, look, I have insurance. And so I'm not like, you're covered, and I'm not going to steal your money and go to Hawaii. I do this because I love it. And for a
Yeah,
profession.
it's certainly from a professional standpoint, I think it probably, I mean, you speak to it much better than I do, but I can tell you that, I wouldn't hire an attorney, an accountant. I wouldn't hire any other professional service provider unless they had insurance, right? Because that's how your interests are protected when you're hiring someone. I just a quick story, because we had this is $170,000 claim against a designer who had terminated a relationship with a really difficult client.
Mhm.
Well, that client had really deep pockets and took it as like, all right, let's go then, right? So they litigated back against them and alleged negligence. And that's what the challenge is that the client tends to have all the power in those scenarios. And if they have deep pockets and the resources to litigate, they can go after you and make up alternatively whatever they feel they've been wronged on, right? And even though
Yeah.
they walked away from this client came back and it ended up settling for $170,000, right? So that's kind of where the insurance, you wouldn't think that would come in, but that's what you're protecting yourself against, right? We all want
Yeah.
perfect clients, but that doesn't always work out, right?
Ideally, yes, but no. Yeah. And, you know, we try our best to, cover everything in the drawings and, do our homework when we're speccing things, but things happen and yeah, you can make an innocent mistake. And so it's really good to know that you're covered.
It's that like pursuit of perfection, but perfection is pretty much impossible because things happen. You have so many moving parts and you have different people, different groups, different teams, lead time, you name it. Like there's so much opportunity for mistakes, but then it's also about making sure that you have peace of mind and your client has peace of mind at the end of the day, that you can focus on the work and make sure that you're revisiting that and not having to, chase that option down within your own liability and worry about really your own reputation. Once that's, I hate to say it's like when something happens, but it kind of is, it is
But
like
it's always going to happen.
yeah, like it's, you want to make sure that when it happens that you're ready for it, because that's one really bad claim or one thing that comes against you could take you out of business like really quickly, depending on the size and scale of whatever it is. So we're actually already in 20 minutes, so we've moved by pretty quickly, I'm going to say. So just a reminder to our audience, please submit your questions via Q&A. We've got one in here that will be a few in here actually that we will answer. And if we can't get to everything, we'll be sure to post the responses to those later. But before we get too far along, I want to just share my screen again. Where the button is, there's the button. To show you how to sign up, because we've been talking about all these different pieces. Now, how do you do this? So sign up today, as Jeremy was saying, go to the ASID website. This is a member login screen in particular, and so you do need to be logged into your ASID account. And so make sure you log in when you're going here, and you can find it via two places, either under resources, ASID Advantage, ASID member liability insurance, go ahead, that's a direct link, or go under resources and you'll see the option to go to Design Business by ASID. Then you'll see a link to that same page of the member liability insurance too. So you can jump in there, get that information. You have the option to actually submit a quote, but also if you have questions, people are available. And so they'll be able to get those questions answered. They're really responsive, they're really quick to get you that feedback, because they really want to help you get covered and make sure you have the right coverage for what you're doing. And if you haven't probably looked at what your coverage is in the past, what I would say, Jeremy, year, it's probably due time. Like it's probably something you want to do like at least annually, as you just check on all the processes of your business and just double check. Do you have the right coverage for what scope and projects and type of work your firm's doing these days?
Yeah, and the insurance market has changed drastically over the last few years, as I'm sure everyone's experienced personally. So it's good to just kind of make sure that what you have is still, the right fit for you. And it's priced well, right? Because rates have kind of transitioned all over the place. So want to make sure that what you're buying is actually going to cover you and priced well.
And just to speak to the price, my price was very, very close to what Jeremy quoted.
Even better. All right, so let's jump into a few questions. I'm going to stop the screen share again, just so we can see Erica and Jeremy. So question first, Jeremy, regarding what is covered. So what about products in a designer's warehouse? Can that be included in the coverage?
It can. So it wouldn't be part of the professional liability. That would be part of that business owner's policy, because we would be covering property. But if it's in your care, custody, or control, or you're responsible for it, then there's coverage that is built in, either called in transit or inland marine coverage, that will cover that product while it's at different locations. And we would just need to know how much it is that you need to insure and for how long. And so what we'll often do is just add a rider for that, period of time to cover that property until you no longer need it. Unless you're doing a lot of that work, in which case we can do more of a blanket type policy.
Really helpful. So make sure you know what you have and read the details too. So you can have that option then. Let's see for a next question. All right. So if you sign up on a specific date for coverage, are you covered does the coverage cover specifications done earlier, but the claim is made after you've signed up for insurance? So I'm going to assume this means like there's a project in process, like it's in development, you're making specifications, but then you sign up for the insurance after the specifications have been done earlier. Does your new coverage go back into what has been already specified?
Yeah, it's a great question. Unfortunately, no, it's not going to cover past work, which is why you want to have the policy in force as soon as possible. Because as long as you've had the policy in place, we actually had a claim we just paid out for 2012 because the designer had kept their policy in place, had it in place prior to that project. And then there was somebody fell down a stairwell, went into the general contractor, designer, everybody's. It was a large claim from 2012 that our policy paid out on retroactively. But the policy coverage doesn't start until the day you buy it, and then it will carry backwards for as long as you keep it in place. So if you keep it in place 20 years, it's going to cover you for 20 years of projects. But if you put it in place today, it's not going to cover you for a project you started a year ago, right? It has to be whenever that policy went in place. But it does cover backwards as long as you kept it in place.
So I'd say the important piece is once you sign up, stay in the program.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what I always recommend is even if you're not, at a point in your career where budgets are thin or you're just looking to get something in place, buy the lowest limit just to have something. And then, if your business grows and you need to increase the limit, so be it, great. That's good. That's a good problem to have, but keeping just that, the least expensive, the lowest limit policy in place will now cover you backwards for as long as you have that policy in place. So all your past work will be covered.
Really helpful there. An interesting question about travel. So if you have car rentals and such, do either of the policies offer options within that too?
Yep, good question. So if you do car rentals, under the business owner's policy, so this is not the professional, this would be the business owners, you can include what's called a hired and non-owned auto liability policy. So that would extend coverage for rented vehicles and if you drive your own vehicle for work. Okay, it's just liability. What I'd recommend, however, is it's probably easier if you're not doing a ton of rentals to just buy through the insurance company and transfer that away from your business altogether. If this is a business trip, right? But you can add that to the business owner's policy and still get some coverage in place to make sure there's coverage for damage to the rental and liability for the company.
Very helpful there. Another question in comparison. So actually, Erica, you'll probably have experienced this as well. So would you do an apples to apples comparison, if you will? Like, here's my existing policy, Jeremy. Can you walk me through what would be covered in this new program as well? Or if I were to switch, let's say, to the ASID program, is that something that's available, before you sign up?
Yes, absolutely. So what we'll typically do is ask for copies of your existing policies so that we can do a review with you, talk to you, just understand what your business looks like moving forward, and then do a comparison to say, here's recommended, here's what you have, here's what you're missing, here's what you would get should you make a change. And then you can kind of make a more informed decision around the insurance buying once you have that comparison. So that's something that we will do. Both my team internally here as well as the Hanover team will help do that.
Perfect.
And
Then
sorry,
oh,
I could just chime in real quick. I know one thing when I was looking for the policies, there were two companies that actually didn't insure in the state I live in. So that's something to be aware of, but I got through the end of the process until that was brought up.
I think, well, then that leads to another question, Jeremy. Does this policy, do the options through this program also cover all 50 states and also territories?
Yes.
You've got
the professional, yes. The business owner, it depends. Some states are more challenging with property. You probably know which ones those are. So, that's not a Hanover specific thing. That's most insurance companies, but we can help get options with other companies as needed.
Does that also include if you're working in multiple states?
Yes.
That was
That was my case, because I was in multiple states. And so, but you just need one policy. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy. What I was told is you just need one policy, and then it doesn't matter what state you have a
Correct.
project.
Yeah. Yeah. The policy is based out of whatever your home state is. That's where it's written, but it's worldwide coverage. So it's, even if you're doing international projects, and there's a suit that's brought back against you, that the policy is still there. It's worldwide.
Perfect. All right, we're going to do one more question because we're already at 2:30. Told you this goes by pretty quick. But then other questions that we haven't addressed, we'll either follow up with you individually. We've got a couple of questions and comments from our attendees. Thank you for being so proactive and engaged. But for this final question, this attendee has a product line and has a different insurance policy for that as well. Can the program that ASID is offering able to cover both a product line as well as professional services?
Under one single policy? Is that the question?
Or is there options? Let's say, like, does it need to be under one policy, or can we then have multiple policies for this member? And we can also follow up with you if we get your contact information.
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing. So it's really going to be very specific to your business, whether it can be fit under one form or if we would need to carve out separate forms based on the types of products and services that you're providing.
Got it. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to just do a quick share again as a reminder. I know we've got a few questions yet. As a reminder, because a lot of people are asking about how do I get a quote? What's my quote at? I think, Jeremy, I'm going to borrow your line. It depends, because it depends on what state you're in, what scope, what services you're providing. Key thing here, go to the ASID webpage. As a member, you're able to log in, and then you're able to get that quote and get that follow-up and contact information there. That's the really important piece there for us. So with this, I'm going to say thank you to Erica and Jeremy. We appreciate your time, your perspective, your experiences, because hearing from both of you, one as a member and as our program partner, is really valuable to really understand how does this all work. I'll let the two of you sign off, and I will wrap up for us real quick.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Jeremy. So this concludes our Member Benefit Spotlight webinar featuring the ASID Professional Liability Insurance. Thank you to our panelists, Jeremy Welsh and Erica Glover, and thank you to you, our audience, for joining us. So a recording from today's webinar will be available on the ASID YouTube channel, so you'll be able to revisit it. It's also going to be linked on the ASID website, and we'll also share in Design Connection by ASID. At the conclusion of this, you will also receive a survey. Please fill that out. It helps us also understand what information you need from us as a follow-up to this program, and also whatever other resources you're looking for from ASID, specifically under Design Business by ASID. So we'll be continuing this program. Advance just a couple. There we go. Continuing this series in a few weeks. So on Tuesday, November 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern, mark your calendar, we will have our next Member Benefit Spotlight featuring the ASID Member Retirement Plan program. So to be sure to check out all the programs available through Design Business by ASID to help you start, build, and sustain a healthy practice. Thank you, and have a great day.